Good evening, Mr. William Nyarko. This evening we call on you on our Awake Citizens show, where we discuss issues concerning Africa. And today we are in your office to officially call on you to state your position, basically one, on the Gambian situation, DR Congo, and then the ICC.
Thanks for having me. I thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts on these very important issues, and I also want to commend Awake Africa for the great job that you guys are doing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nyarko, a couple of weeks ago, you issued ACILA, issued a statement urging President Jammeh to hand over when his time is due. And we've all also seen the intervention by the ECOWAS community and the leaders of ECOWAS. Yet, a couple of days ago, there have been media reports that suggest that Jammeh vowed not to step down. And any move by ECOWAS to out him will be a disastrous one. What do you make of this developing situation?
Thank you very much. So, the Gambian situation, of course, as we know, is an evolving one. If we piggyback a bit, the context within which all of this is happening. Mr. Jammeh, as we know, has ruled Gambia for 22 years. He came into power, seized power in 1994, and converted to a democracy during Gambia's first election in '96. So under the electoral system, Mr. Jammeh has won elections, has contested elections. He contested in '96 and won, 2001 and won, 2006 and won, 2011 and won, and of course in 2016 he lost. And under the constitution of the Gambia, if you are not happy with an election result, you have 10 days within to file to the Supreme Court, just like we have in Ghana. Okay. So the president can be sworn in whilst the petition is ongoing. As we know, the election happened on the 1st. On the
2nd of December.
It happened on the 1st, and then on the 2nd, Mr. Jammeh conceded to the amazement of the whole world. On the 5th of December, there was an event which happened in the Gambia. This event was that the Independent Electoral Commission of Gambia came up and revised the result, actually giving Mr. Jammeh 3 percentage points more, because in the first round he got 36% and some change. And they revised the figures, and he had 39 almost 9% or so, whilst Mr. Adama Barrow's result remained the same. But it still did not make a difference to the outcome, which was that Mr. Adama Barrow has won. And so based on that, Mr. Jammeh said that because the revision had been made, because the Electoral Commission itself indicated that it had made some mistakes in the calculation, seized on that, and therefore said that the results should be annulled. But Mr. Jammeh doesn't have the power to annul the results. Under Article 49 of the Constitution of Gambia, it is only the Supreme Court that can determine whether a case, whether the election results should be annulled or not. So Mr. Jammeh was wrong on that, and we advised him to go to court. Subsequently, he has filed a case in court, but he faces a challenge of even having the Supreme Court hearing it because of the kinds of bad governance that he had been instituting in the Gambia. The Supreme Court only had the Chief Justice, who is a Nigerian. And so even by filing the petition, there were no judges to sit on
the case.
We have learned that he's trying to appoint judges from Sierra Leone and and Nigeria again to sit on the case, so the case is ongoing. And as you rightly said, ECOWAS has been taking action because under ECOWAS, even though there's a provision of non-interference, with all of these instruments, there's always a derogation that when you have situations such as you're going to have in the Gambia, the regional body has a right to review the situation, which it has been doing first through dialogue. Once Mr. Jammeh's term expires, which will be January 19th, which will actually be midnight January 18th, just like in Ghana, the mandate of President Mahama will expire January 6th, midnight. So by January 7th, we have to have a new president. So in Senegal's case, in Gambia's case, January 18th midnight, Mr. Jammeh's powers will expire. So that's why Mr. Adama Barrow will be installed on the 19th of January. So clearly, the people of the Gambia have voted resoundingly rejecting Mr. Jammeh, and he has to leave. There's a complication of it. What if the Supreme Court, now the Supreme Court has fixed January 10th to begin hearing the substantive case. What if the Supreme Court says, let's say in January, this is January 15th or January 17th, that the results should be annulled? You know, we know that he has a huge influence on.
Yes. So, Mr. Nyarko, can there be possible case of constitutional challenge in Gambia?
It can be. So, on the one hand, the ECOWAS is working on, helping towards the inauguration of Mr. Adama Barrow. But this inauguration is not going to happen until January 19th. So, because of that, and you have a case which the Supreme Court now is going to hear.
Yes.
So if by the 17th, the Supreme Court says the results have been cancelled, the result, there should be a rerun of the election. What is going to be, if it's going to be a rerun, then it means that Mr. Yahya Jammeh
will still remain.
Will have to step down. Will have to step down, and there must be, an interim government.
Okay.
Because just like, let's say in Ghana's case, as elections were supposed to be held December 7th. So and given all that was going on with the Electoral Commission in Ghana,
yes,
assuming that those cases in court were not resolved before December 7th, these cases were going to be resolved, let's say towards the end of December. Then we'll have elections maybe in January. By January 7th, President Mahama's term would have expired, because that's what the Constitution says.
Okay.
So if that had happened in Ghana, we would have had the constitutional crisis, which therefore would have meant that we probably should have an interim government, because Parliament will also, their term will also have expired.
Sure.
Okay. And so what, the Chief Justice is going to take over? So there can be a constitutional crisis in the Gambia. Okay. The question is whether Mr. Jammeh will even agree to an interim government.
Now, Yahya Jammeh is threatening to resist any attempt by ECOWAS or whichsoever body to out him. Should this be the case, what can possibly happen in Gambia? And what can ECOWAS do about this very situation? Because there has also been reports that he has lambasted the ECOWAS mediation team. So, should Yahya Jammeh refuse any proposal from the ECOWAS mediation team, what can possibly happen in Gambia? and how can the situation be solved?
Well, thank you. So this also assumes that the case before the Supreme Court of the Gambia may not be resolved before the inauguration. But assuming that it is resolved in favor of Mr. Barrow, it means that the inauguration of Mr. Barrow will go forward. And in that event, when Mr. Jammeh refuses to step down, the actions are wide-ranging. And as we know, there's been dialogue, or continuing dialogue, and he's giving indication that he's not going to step down and that he's going to face up with the ECOWAS, calling ECOWAS bluff. In that unfortunate and unlikely event, regional instruments to which the Gambia has ratified, including also the ECOWAS add-on protocols, which countries, including Gambia, have ratified, saying that if there's an election and the candidate that loses will transfer power peacefully, ECOWAS has the mandate to go into it. ECOWAS has done fairly similar interventions in Guinea-Bissau. And so the first point of call, as we have been told, is that Senegal, which has a border with Gambia, is going to be the country whose forces will be used to face off with Mr. Jammeh. Now, Senegal is very strategic, not only because they share a border with the Gambia, but also because, and even more important, Gambia is a landlocked country. It depends on the ports of Senegal to get things through.
Okay.
So, I mean, Senegal can first even start using an economic blockade. It will paralyze Gambia. But for a person like Mr. Jammeh, who is thinking more about himself than the people of the Gambia, even a blockade may not deter him too much. So in that unlikely event, I think that a number of things can also happen. It is possible that the military will start disowning him. Already some of his ministers, especially his ambassadors, have started distancing themselves from him. They have sent letters to him saying that he should hand over power by January 19th when this term expires. In fact, his ambassador to the US was the first to come out. And Jammeh has recorded him, and he's stepping down. So it is important that we look at the variety of strategies. When the army understands that after January 18th, Mr. Jammeh will no longer have the power as president. So orders that he issues can be disobeyed. Other organizations in the Gambia have also indicated that they will hit the streets and all of that. So a number of things can happen internally within the Gambia itself, where people embark on, in order to protect the democracy, they can decide not to obey orders issued by Mr. Jammeh when his tenure of office expires January 18th. So that is possible. I doubt that there is likely to be a full, scale, almost like outright war. I doubt that that is going to happen. I think that if we have to look into providence, it is more likely that Mr. Jammeh is, even if he puts up a fight, his people are going to desert him, and he's not going to have the protection that he has once he is president. Now, he can make noise now because he's president still. His legal mandate hasn't expired. And under the law, when he issues commands to the army, for example, they have to obey, unless the orders are totally in violation of the Constitution of the Gambia.
So what is your
idea? So a number of things, some of which are already being done. Because Mr. Jammeh is still the president, he is the legitimate person that they deal with. And at this point, what they can use, part of which they have been using, is soft power, because he has not violated any law to date regarding the election.
Yes.
He has taken the case to court, and the court is going to be sitting on the case. So at this point, he has not violated any law. At this point, they cannot send forces to go and oust him, because his term of office hasn't ended. His term of office ends January 18th. Just as in Ghana, the term of office of the president has now ended. Yes. It will end on January 6th. Midnight.
Yes, midnight.
And that vacuum that remains, because when we wake up, then we have the inauguration. So at this point, ECOWAS can only use soft power, which is through dialogue, negotiation. Some have suggested power sharing. Power sharing should never be entertained because it is alien to the constitution of the Gambia.
Okay.
The constitution of Gambia says you can serve for 5 years. Now, they don't have a limit, unlike Ghana, which has 2 terms. They don't have a limit because at the time they were writing the constitution, Mr. Jammeh was the military person in power, just as we had in Ghana.
Okay.
But in our case, we put the time limits in there. So in his case, they didn't put time limits. That's how come he's ruled for 22 years, 20 of which were really 2 elections. 96, there were 5 elections. He won 96, he won 2001, he won 2006, he won 2011, and he has lost in 2016, which is contested. So his term hasn't expired. It is only when his term expires and he refuses to go, then he would have violated the law. That's when those measures can be taken. But in the meantime, since he has stated his intention that he will not leave, it is important that ECOWAS is doing what it is doing, which is preparing for the use of hard power when that becomes necessary. So I assume, as you can imagine, leaders will still be talking to him on the side as well. It will continue until on the day that he's supposed to leave. If he decides not to leave, then all the other measures will be applied.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Stan.